If you're new to the channel, this is the perfect video for you because today I wanted to throw in this compilation of case studies, client results that we achieved over the last few months, basically over the last year or so at the agency. So if you're an e-commerce brand owner or a marketer wanting to learn more about running ads for your e-commerce business, then take a look at this video, sit back, relax, grab some popcorn, and potentially take out a notepad because you might learn a thing or two. And on that note, if you don't yet know who I am, my name is Justin and I'm the founder at Wizo Media, an e-commerce marketing agency helping elevate thriving brands by simplifying e-commerce growth. Showing you how we generated an extra £415,000 in 8 months for one of our e-commerce brands while doubling their ad results and keeping the same amount of ad spend. The 8 months prior to us joining, and you'll see in a second why I choose 8 months. It's actually because we've been working for 8 months with this client. Keep in mind, the 8 months prior to us joining was July 7th, 2021 to March 7th, 2022. So that accounts for back to school, which is a good time for them. That accounts for all the holiday season, which again is a great time for this brand. And during that time, from Facebook ads alone, they had generated £233,000 in revenue at about 5.37 ROAS. And they spent about 43.5K pounds during that time. So again, as I said at the bottom, this also accounts for Black Friday and Cyber Monday 2021. And look at the after right here. So we spent almost the same amount. So about £6,000 more that we spent during that time. We generated a total of £415,000 at an 8.35 ROAS. So if I go back, it's 5.37 and here 8.35. So we increased the ROAS just again by doing, first of all, account changes, by expanding to a new app platform, and finally, by also helping them with the creative aspects. So with this said, looking at this right here, you look at Facebook, the breakdown, £44,000 on Facebook, which if you go back to this one right here, it's almost the same amount of ad spend that they had spent in the last 8 months at about £318,000. So even on Facebook itself, we did better. And if you look at Pinterest, this is where things went completely crazy. Keep in mind, it's only acquisition. We're excluding anybody who might have purchased. There's absolutely nothing done in terms of retargeting on Pinterest. We spent 6.4K on Pinterest and got 100K back. So 16.2 ROAS on that platform. So that was what you could call the low-hanging fruit for this client that we were also able to introduce. But if you look at just Facebook, it improved. Pinterest also helped improve the whole thing. And as I say right here, also keep in mind that the prior results were accounting for Black Friday, Cyber Monday 2021. The current results are outside of Black Friday and Cyber Monday 2022. So they're pre-BFCM 2022, meaning that it also accounts, as I say right here, for the slow season of summer. So technically, now that we're gonna get into the Black Friday season, this is most likely going to help them generate even better results than what you're seeing on screen right now. In this video, I want to talk about how we generated over $1 million over the last 19 months for this e-commerce brand of ours. So a jewelry and accessories brand that we've been working with since April 2021. So in terms of ad and email attributed revenue, so revenue that was attributed back to our efforts as an agency with them, it's been $1.006 million over the last 19 months, which in that example makes us responsible or at least participating in about 58% of the total store revenue. So you can see that over the last 19 months, we spent about $98,000 on ads, brought back $745,000 in ad attributed revenue. Facebook being a 7.3 ROAS, Facebook being primarily acquisition campaigns, about an 80-20 split in terms of the budget. When you look at Google, Google is a little bit heavier on the retargeting side of things, although we still have our search campaigns up and rolling on there with some of the product keywords for that brand. So sitting at about a 10x ROAS on there. But before anybody asks in the comments, does that account for branded search campaigns? It does, actually. So do keep that in mind when you see those results. Now, Klaviyo right here to the right, so I had to split the results into 2 sections because for Klaviyo, you can't get more than a year of data in the performance tab. So 210,000 right here from November 15th, 2021 to November 15th, 2022, which is when we introduced emails. So basically right around their Black Friday start in 2021. And the period after, so this year from November 16th to December 9th, it's been about $50,000. So we actually exceeded this year's revenue in terms of email generated revenue based on last year's revenue if you compare the Black Friday period. So that was also a pretty good win for us this year. Now, specifically zooming in and looking at the Black Friday and Cyber Monday period for them, so that is roughly a 2-week period. So they've run their campaign from November 15th all the way to November 30th of 2022. So about a 2-week span of running ads. We spent about $20,000 during these 2 weeks on ads, brought back $127,000 based on triple well for an overall ROAS of 6.66, so the devil's number. And if you look at Klaviyo at the bottom, during that time period, we brought back about $65,000 compared to roughly $40,000 in 2021 for that same time period. In this video, I want to talk about how we brought this food e-commerce brand to be losing money on ads at about a 1.6 ROAS to over 3.53 ROAS while scaling their ad spend. So unfortunately, the only platform I have a before and after to show is Google overall, because TikTok, they never ran ads on it at all. Facebook, they had no data, so the whole ad account was new. There was nothing for us to look back in time. The only platform where there's a comparison was Google. If you look at Google results himself, which I'll show you in a second as we've pivoted them to triple well once they first started working with us. But looking at that right here, Google reported back for the month before we started working with them an overall ROAS of 4.45, and now essentially 3 months later, it's actually reporting back at over 8 ROAS if you look at platform ROAS, just to compare apples with apples, and the overall account performance is actually 3.53. So the results you see on screen right now are actually from the middle of month 2 to the middle of month 3, because once they first started working with us from about the mid of August to the mid of September, results were honestly pretty poor. Because again, two new platforms, and then trying to optimize in older platforms the first time they ran any UGC. So I think we were at about 1.6 for that first month. Month 2, we actually ended at 1.9, so slight increase from month 1. And then in the middle of month 2 to the end of month 3, this is really where things started kicking off. So in that case, we're talking mid-October to mid-November, which led to a 3.53 triple well attributed ROAS. If you look at the platform ROAS, it's actually a 5.47, and basically $32,900 in purchase conversion value during that period. We went from about a $7,000 monthly ad spend run rate to about a $10,000 monthly spending run rate during that period of time. So I'm talking about the daily spends that we increased to get to technically a 10K run rate to about $500 more or less a day during that time period. So looking at this right here, you can actually see the TikTok is not really a channel for us. We're trying to aim for conversions. It really is more of a creative sandbox for us to test these ad creatives and bring over to Facebook and make essentially Facebook ads that much better. Nonetheless, we still got some purchases attributed to TikTok. There is a discrepancy actually in the data that is reported here, because if you look at the column that talks about purchases reported back on the ad channel itself, it'd be 75, which technically 75 purchases would never be 0.15 ROAS, which is what's reported back for the ad platform itself. So again, ignore that data. I don't know why it's there, but got a mere 0.3 on TikTok. Again, our goal is just to push traffic to the site, but more importantly, to actually just test our ad creatives. If you look at Facebook, got 2.8, which is not too shabby for that client. Google is really where we were able to scale the spend quite a lot. Got 4.7 reported back on triple well, 8.07 if you look at the platform itself. So we basically doubled the Google Ads results during that time period. I mean, started from 0 all the way up to, again, initially a 1.6, 1.9, then a 2.8 on Facebook ad ROAS, leading to an overall account average of 3.53. In today's video, I want to share with you the story of this apparel and fashion e-commerce brand that we partnered with in December of 2021. They came to us struggling with ad results post iOS 14. Attribution was all over the place, to now spending about $45,000 in less than 60 days. So now if you look at pretty much the full year before we came into that ad account, so basically all of 2021, they'd spent a total of $78,000 on ads. And if you look to the right, so unfortunately I was not able to pull the number of the total purchase conversion value, but you can see on the right the ROAS for these campaigns. You see 1.4, 1.7. One campaign essentially was pretty good. Actually, it only spent 3K, but was on 2.6. Then, you have 0.5, 0.5, 0.7, 1.4. So you can see that the results were, 1.5 or lower, essentially, if you look at most of the campaigns prior to that time period. So now, in the full years that we've been working together, the ROAS increased, so the overall average of the ad accounts came up to 2.02 ROAS in that case, which is still a pretty significant increase for that brand. The spend also increased a lot, right? If you go back to this one, so $78,000 in ad spend for the year prior, and now we spent about $146,000 so far this year for $295,000 in conversions value. So we almost doubled the ad spend during that time period, got them a significant increase in ad results. And before I zoom out, I'll zoom in once more to just specifically Q4 to date of 2022. So from the beginning of October to the 9th of December, we spent $45,000 just during that period. So if I go back right here, in one full year, we spent $146,000 and we spent a third of that ad spend in just the last 2 months. So at the time of recording this video, we're actually spending about $1,200 to $1,300 a day. We started the year, and for the bulk of the year, we were spending about $300 to $500 a day. So we finally were able to really crack the code early Q4 and scale that brand up and maintain this ad spend for the last month and a half or so. Today I'm bringing you probably the best case study I've ever done on the channel, is how we scaled this e-commerce brand from $550 a day in ad spend to over $14,000 a day in just under 2 weeks. This is how we made it happen. So first of all, we brought this account from this. So on January 18th, 2023, they were sitting at around 2.9 ROAS. They were spending $556 a day, $1,600 in conversion value a day. You know, nothing too crazy, good, decent results. Then to this, 7 days later, so January 25th, 2023, to a 3.5 ROAS, spending about $1,800 a day and getting $6,500 in conversions during that day, to then that 2 weeks later from the start. So basically this is week 1, this is week number 2 at the end. We were spending $14,290 a day and had 3.12 ROAS. So how the hell did we make that happen? What was the secret? What worked? What didn't work? Because look, scaling that fast is not healthy. There are a lot of things that break when scaling this fast. So I want to show you in today's video what broke for that client and also what went well. So in total, for that 3 or so week period where we were able to ride this wave, we spent $63,000 and or $63,798 and brought back over $230,000 in purchase conversion value for total ROAS of 3.6. Just so that you guys know, this brand last year barely broke above $1 million, and that was accounting for wholesale and online revenue, which were both honestly almost 50-50. So with that being said, if you look at this, 230K is more than 25% of what they made last year, and we made that in under 3 weeks. So honestly, this was a crazy period for that client, which again, we're not ready to accommodate for that scale, but we rode the hell out of that wave, and let's share my learnings with you. Minutes after they won, we were back during that period, me and one of our media buyers, which is actually the media buyer on that account, were both in Cape Town, South Africa. So it was like literally 12 or like 1 a.m. at this point. It was like super late. We're just like, we see that basically the Eagles just won, bring them to the Super Bowl. We're like, holy shit, there's an opportunity right there. We need to get them to the ad account right now. And at that point, the budget for the day was scheduled to be, I think, like 1,500 to 2K during that day. We got 590 orders, and literally probably 80 to 90% of those orders came minutes after they were announced to basically win, or that they won the semifinals, and that they were going to go to the Super Bowl. We got a lot of orders. Honestly, this caught us by surprise. You know, we were watching the game just to make sure, watching the stats to see that, hey, if something happened, we were going to be fast to take an action. So we scaled the budget to $6,800 during that first day, which was kind of the max we were able to. Super Bowl ended pretty late, right? So there was only a few hours left for the end of the day. That all happened within the last few hours of the evening. So with that said, 590 orders, which is a crazy amount of orders for that client, you know, just within that day. Just again, for comparison's sake, that's a little bit more than half of the volume they usually get in an entire month of orders that they got just like that within about 2 to 3 hours. So explanation right here, what broke during that period. And right before I get into that, I just actually want to go back to the backstory right here and like what we did. Literally all we did was play on a current trend. Like, I don't want to say that we did something incredibly crazy, is we were fast on hopping on a trend. We spoke to the owner and we're like, look, let's just take a trend right now. Let's figure out, we know that you're a brand that works with trends. And then he was like, sure, Super Bowl, Eagles, bet on them. Let's just go with that trend. We're like, cool. We followed them with that on ads. And honestly, we could say it was a bet, But not gonna lie, knowing in the last year that every single time we had success with ads was true, basically some mass market trends, it was honestly a pretty safe bet. So what broke from that experience? Because let me tell you, a lot of things broke in there. And this is crazy because like I see so many clients or prospects on sales calls, and they're like, I always ask them the following question. I'm like, look, what's your goal right now with your brand? Like, what would you consider a success if you were working with our team? And then they're like, Justin, man, I don't know, $1 million a month, right? Or I want to scale super fast. I'm like, okay, sure. But like, what if it does happen? They're like, yeah, that's a happy problem. Trust me, it's not a happy problem. It sucks when you can still see that there's so much more potential that you can squeeze out of an opportunity, but you can't due to logistical reasons. And here, the reasons, there was a lot why we weren't able to push that opportunity further than we did. So first of all, the first problem that occurred, Amex blocked their credit card. That happened 2 days actually. So it happened twice that Amex blocked their credit card because spend was much higher than normal. So Amex was like, hey, this is honestly not normal activity. What's going on? So then the owner had to call Amex, figure this out, but that caused like very reduced ad spend for a day. Finally, they got it back up, and then it got blocked again, which again, pursued that problem for a second day. Called again Amex, or I don't know how he fixed that the second time, but then finally we got back up and running. And then miraculously, Facebook sent us an email during that time period saying, hey, we're gonna grant you 30 days payment terms. Owner was like, great, that's what I need right now. Fuck it, let me take it. So he accepted those terms, not knowing that this would result in restarting the account spending limit. It's as if Facebook kind of changed the payments term or payment processor, and instead of being a card, it was like a new method of payments, and we were now limited to like spending $100 a day. So that took a solid 3 to 4 days to resolve, which is honestly very long considering that we had a very short window of opportunity. So we were in talks with Facebook support, and while that was going on, actually the client was talking to Facebook support. We were talking to Facebook support on our side. We also had already planned a call with a partner that we had worked with in the past that could actually give out agency ad accounts without any limits, so the client know that like, look, if we weren't able to solve it with Facebook, we'd go into that account. And then when the time came, we're like, look, it's not resolved as of right now. Let's go into the new account. He's like, well, actually at this point, I can't fulfill. Like I don't have the capacity right now. Like we just have too many orders. I can't send them out, and I'm already having angry customers. They're stressed out. They don't know if they're gonna get it in time for the Super Bowl. So we're like, shit, we can't scale that up that much. So then it took, honestly, like if you count of all these problems, there was a solid week right after, basically just a few days after they had won the semifinals. There's basically that next week, like we could barely not do anything. Like we were able to scale them up for like the first 2, 3, 4, 5 days, and then afterwards it was like done. There's nothing for us to do.